Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is about the true story of Bonnie and Clyde. But before we get into today's video, to those who are new to this channel, please feel free to click on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you would be notified about the latest updates. So without any delay, let's get right into the video.
Bonnie Parker was born on October 1, 1910 in Rowena, Texas, but her family relocated to a small West Dallas town called Cement City. Bonnie met a boy named Roy Thornton while in high school, with whom she dropped out and married in September 1926 at 16 years old. Thornton got entangled with the law before Bonnie met Clyde. Thornton was imprisoned just 3 years after they married, the last time he and Bonnie would see each other. At the time of her death, Bonnie was still legally married to Roy Thornton, and allegedly wore her wedding ring up to the day she died. Clyde Barrow was born in Ellis County, Texas on March 24, 1909. The Barrow family was poor while Clyde was growing up. They moved to a more urban area in West Dallas, where they continued to struggle financially. Clyde's first run-in with the law was at the age of 17. He was arrested for failing to return a rental car on time and had fled when confronted by the police. His older brother, Marvin "Buck" Barrow, had a criminal record and was known for theft. Both brothers participated in criminal activity in the late 1920s, including carjacking, safe cracking, and robbing small stores. The two first encountered each other at a mutual friend's place in West Dallas. They were allegedly inseparable after their initial meeting, but their time together was quickly cut short when Clyde was arrested and imprisoned for auto theft. It was clear that Bonnie had quickly fallen in love with Clyde, because of her lack of criminal activity before meeting him. One of her first known crimes with Clyde was helping him escape, by smuggling a gun into the prison on March 11, 1930. Clyde's escape, however, was unsuccessful as he was recaptured shortly after. On September 18, 1930, Clyde was transferred to Eastham Prison Farm, which was notorious for being a brutal manual labor prison camp. In February 1932, Clyde was granted parole by Texas Governor Ross Sterling and released from prison thanks to his mother's efforts in petitioning for his release. Bonnie and Clyde were reunited once again. Governor Sterling's release of Clyde on parole was soon realized as a mistake. Just over a month after Clyde was granted parole, he began his series of crimes in robbery, burglary, and murder that would go on for 2 years. Later in 1932, Bonnie and Clyde began traveling with Raymond Hamilton, a young gunman. Hamilton left them several months later and was replaced by William Daniel Jones in November. Ivan M. "Buck" Barrow, Clyde's brother, was released from the Texas State Prison on March 23, 1933, having been granted a full pardon by the governor. He quickly joined Clyde, bringing his wife, Blanche, bringing the group to 5. This gang embarked upon a series of bold robberies that made headlines across the country. They escaped capture in various encounters with the law. However, their activities made law enforcement efforts to apprehend them even more intense. During a shootout with police in Iowa on July 29, 1933, Buck Barrow was fatally wounded, and Blanche was captured. Jones, who was frequently mistaken for "Pretty Boy" Floyd, was captured in November 1933 in Houston, Texas, by the sheriff's office. Bonnie and Clyde went on together. On November 22, 1933, the Dallas, Texas sheriff and his deputies set a trap to capture Bonnie and Clyde near Grand Prairie, Texas, but the couple escaped the officers' gunfire. They held up an attorney on the highway and took his car, which they abandoned in Miami, Oklahoma. On December 21, 1933, Bonnie and Clyde held up and robbed a citizen at Shreveport, Louisiana. On January 16, 1934, 5 prisoners, including Raymond Hamilton, were released from the Eastham State Prison Farm at Waldo, Texas, by Clyde, accompanied by Bonnie. 2 guards were shot by the escaping prisoners with automatic pistols that had been previously concealed in a ditch by Barrow. As the prisoners ran, Barrow covered their retreat with bursts of machine gun fire. Among the escapees was Henry Methvin of Louisiana. Many of their crimes occurred across the state of Texas and the Midwest. Bonnie, Clyde, and the other Barrow gang members constantly remained on the run. They had a quick hand that was always ready to fire, and Clyde was rather skilled in driving fast and making an escape from law enforcement. They shot at anyone who got in their way and took down a number of officers throughout their time on the run. It's estimated that they murdered at least 12 people during their 2-year crime run. Many of their robberies and burglaries were at small-town shops, grocery stores, banks, and gas stations. Their payout for these robberies usually wasn't much, but they targeted these places because they were located on back roads and in less populated areas where law enforcement wasn't as present as they were in larger cities. The group frequently took pictures posing in front of one of their stolen vehicles and guns, which helped romanticize their life on the run. Since the Bureau of Investigation, now known as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, began tracking the Barrow Gang in 1932, they were constantly on the road. They had to take turns driving throughout the day and night and hopping from town to town across multiple states on a daily basis to prevent being caught. They had little time to settle down in one spot and often bathed in rivers. A few close encounters with the law left them injured and bloodied. The Dallas County shootout in Iowa is often marked as Bonnie and Clyde's beginning of their end. Bonnie, Clyde, W.D. Jones, and Buck and Blanche Barrow made their way to Dallas County, Iowa in July 1933. They set up camp in a rural area to lay low after being involved in a shootout in Platte City, Missouri that wounded Buck. Their camp was situated on a hilltop near the Dexfield amusement park. Clyde made a few trips into the city of Dexter to buy supplies. People who serviced him were unaware that he was a notorious outlaw. A nearby resident, Henry Nye, stumbled across their campsite and contacted local authorities. They contacted the Dallas County Sheriff, Clint Nee, who assembled a posse of about 50 people to confront the Barrow Gang. The posse and gang exchanged gunfire before the gang attempted to escape. One of the vehicles was too damaged by the gunfire to start, and Clyde wrecked a second vehicle they had stolen while attempting to get away. Buck Barrow was injured during the shootout and was left behind. Blanche Barrow was also left behind, but Clyde, Bonnie, and W.D. Jones managed to escape. They traveled on foot until they found a car to steal. After traveling away from Dexter, they wrecked the car, robbed a gas station, and stole another car before they eventually escaped to Sioux City, Iowa. Buck Barrow died several days after the shootout due to his injuries, and Blanche Barrow was charged and convicted for her involvement with the gang. She served a 6-year prison sentence and left her life of crime behind upon her release. W.D. Jones left the gang a few weeks after the shootout but was turned in when his identity was discovered, and spent some time in prison for his involvement with the Barrow Gang. Bonnie and Clyde were both injured in the Dallas County shootout but continued their life on the run for another year. While Bonnie and Clyde were riding all throughout the back roads of Texas and the Midwest, former Texas Ranger Frank Hamer had been tracking their movements and learning the routes the outlaws frequently traveled. Hamer coordinated with a Louisiana sheriff, Henderson Jordan, and other Louisiana and Texas highway patrolmen and police officers to set up an ambush. Jordan managed to contact one of the old gang members' families, the Methvins, in an attempt to strike a deal in exchange for their son's amnesty. Bonnie and Clyde had visited the Methvins previously, and it offered law enforcement a chance to catch the outlaws without an escape route. The ambush was set up on the side of Highway 154 in Bienville Parish, Louisiana on May 23, 1934. Law enforcement hid in bushes off the side of the highway. They spotted a Ford V8 coming over the horizon, traveling at a hasty speed. Before Bonnie and Clyde were given a chance to raise their guns, law enforcement fired more than 100 rounds at their vehicle. The Brownsville Herald of Texas reported that Clyde Barrow had approximately 60 bullet wounds in his body, while Bonnie Park had about 50 bullet wounds. A crowd gathered around the vehicle, nicknamed the Death Car, after hearing of Bonnie and Clyde's death. People swarmed the vehicle with Bonnie and Clyde still inside, attempting to steal pieces of clothing, hair, and whatever else they could retrieve. Law enforcement managed to get the crowd under control and towed the car, with the bodies still inside, to another location for them to be removed. Tens of thousands of people attended Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow's funeral. Although it was their wish to be buried together, the Parker family dismissed this idea and had Bonnie buried in a separate location. Okay guys, that is all for today's video. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to receive the latest update from my channel. See you soon in another interesting video. Bye.